Penguin Random House Audio presents The Rumi Prescription: How an Ancient Mystic Poet Changed My Modern Manic Life by Melody Moezzi. Read for you by Mozhan Marnò. To Baba Ahmad, for always being my hamdel, even if we haven't always been hamzabon. Author's note. Better to be of the same heart than of the same tongue. My mother named me Melody after a song by Bobby Vinton. It's called My Melody of Love, and it's bad, really bad. But my Persian mother was a big fan of The Polish Prince, and the bilingual pop meets polka chorus is so admittedly catchy that unless you're aching for an earworm, I highly advise you not to Google it. Still, in 1979, my mom loved that song just as much as she loved the fact that melody means the same thing in both Persian and English. My father, on the other hand, wanted to name me Maryam, in honor of the Virgin Mary, but he was still in Tehran, working as an obstetrician delivering other people's babies, while my mom had already fled on account of Iran's brewing so-called Islamic Revolution. After her cushy job as a pathologist peering through microscopes in the hospital basement morphed into a decidedly more dangerous one as a makeshift trauma surgeon tending to bullet wounds in the emergency room, my parents got scared. 6 months pregnant, my mom swiftly embarked on an American vacation so that I could be born here. My father stayed behind to gauge whether we might still have a future in Iran. I, ever impatient and perhaps taking a cue from my mother, proceeded to flee the womb shortly after we arrived in the States, nearly 2 months early, fully developed, and sporting a plush Persian head of hair. So it was that halfway across the world, my mother easily won the name debate, and I became Melody, not Maryam. Ever since, I've been blessed with an intense appreciation for music and cursed with a staggering lack of talent for it. Years of violin and piano lessons proved this definitively. But neither my atrocious sight reading nor my dreadful recital performances did anything to curtail my love of music. For you need not compose, create, or even read a melody to revel in it. That's the magic of music. It needs no translation. Words, however, do. While musicians can transcend language, writers are bound by it. Think of all the cheesy lyrics we tolerate and even enjoy in love songs that would induce vomiting if they ever appeared in a book of poetry minus the music. I expect that even the brilliant Beyoncé and Jay-Z know that the real genius behind a song like Crazy in Love isn't in the bizarre bridge, uh-oh, 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 oh, no, no, or the captivating chorus, got me looking so crazy right now, but in the notes. 8 centuries ago and thousands of miles away, the great Persian mystic poet and Islamic scholar Maulana Jalaluddin Muhammad Balkhi Rumi knew this too. For while Rumi's verse is made up entirely of words, it's more than that. In Persian, also known as Farsi, the word for poem, sher, means song as well. By no coincidence, Rumi's classical Persian verse isn't meant to be read while sitting, but rather sung while spinning. For this is how Rumi composed his mystical poetry, whirling and rhyming ecstatically. The miracle here is that this verse isn't just good, it's extraordinary, which is why it has been translated into every major language on earth. It's also why Rumi has become so wildly popular around the world today, especially in America, where he is often identified as the best-selling poet in the country and has arguably earned the highest seal of approval from American pop culture, as B and J have now named a daughter after him. There is a reason Rumi's poetry has survived so long and reached so far. His rhymes honor the sublime power of music, begging to be sung, despite and because of the fact that his verse is so exquisite that it stands alone. Even without music and in translation, Rumi's words resonate across time and space, speaking to the unifying force within all of us that transcends language, culture, race, and religion. Herein rests Rumi's notion of the beloved, known by countless different names: God, truth, light, nature, beauty, and the universe, to name just a few, but sharing a common essence inextricably rooted in love. As such, the beloved is not a passion we ought to pursue, but a sacred inheritance that lives within each of us, that connects us, and that, if we let it, wakes us up. This book is the story of how, with the help of my father and Rumi, I woke up. Along the way, I faced all of the diagnoses and applied all of the prescriptions that follow, which is why I've organized the chapters largely chronologically and in the order of every diagnosis, DX, and prescription, RX, that propelled my journey forward. I still encounter each of these diagnoses daily for wanting, isolation, haste, depression, distraction, anxiety, anger, fear, disappointment, and pride are all inherent to the human condition. But thanks to Rumi's poetic prescriptions and my father's patience in dispensing them, I finally feel up to the task. In fact, I welcome it. My hope is that this book will help you do the same, not in the same way or through the same path, but in your way and through your path. Whether you are a Rumi expert or never heard of him before picking up this book doesn't matter. The only prerequisite here is love. That said, because Rumi and I are writers, we are both enamored of and limited by words, and therefore subject to all the wonders and dangers of translation. Rumi wrote almost exclusively in Persian, while I write almost exclusively in English. Worse yet, the classical Persian of Rumi's verse is to contemporary Persian roughly what the Elizabethan English of Shakespeare's verse is to contemporary English. In other words, it's way different. And though Farsi was my first language, it's not the one I know best. Growing up in Dayton, Ohio, I spoke predominantly Fanglish at home and English at school. Unless anyone dissed Dayton as some backward provincial town, you should know that we had a sizable Iranian-American community, ensuring that I was never the only Iranian kid at school. So please set any flyover state stereotypes aside, because the problem with flying over us is that you never get to know us. And for the record, this applies equally to Ohio, go Buckeyes, as to Iran, go Team Melli. All this to say, thanks to my parents, Dayton's tight-knit Iranian-American community, weekly Persian lessons, and plenty of summers in Tehran, I speak Farsi, just not nearly as well as I'd like. While I can read and write the language, I do so abysmally and at a glacial pace. And even after 5 years of intentional study for this book, and a lifetime of inadvertent study as the daughter of 2 proud Persian parents, including a relentless Rumi reciter as a father and a persistent Persian lesson planner as a mother, my language skills remain deeply lacking. My father, by contrast, is fluent in both modern Farsi and Rumi's medieval variety, which he has been singing to me since I was a kid. Translating whenever necessary, he raised me on a steady diet of Rumi. All the while I knew these verses were my inheritance, yet it took me more than 30 years to claim it. Rumi's poetry is epic and untranslatable, full of allegory, commentary, wordplay, and copious literary and Quranic allusions that routinely went over my head growing up, and often still do. For most of my life, the idea that someone like me, with my 4th grade Farsi reading level, could even begin to translate Rumi seemed laughable, not to mention irresponsible. But 2 visionaries inspired me to approach the task with all the love, courage, humor, and humility it demanded. First and foremost, there was my father. He believed in me and promised to help, and he did, a lot. The short translations sprinkled throughout this book represent a tiny sliver of Rumi's voluminous rhyming couplets, quatrains, and ghazals. Still, translating them was exacting. Some verses took me days, weeks, months, or even years to translate to my relative satisfaction. But I was never alone. Rumi was always there, and more often than not, so was my dad. In fact, all of the translations in this book are by my father, Ahmad Moezzi, and me. He patiently guided me through the Persian of every verse, and I carefully chose which words to use in English. In doing so, I tried to preserve the meaning and musicality of Rumi's poetry. At times, however, I sacrificed some of the former for the latter, or vice versa. While I have undoubtedly failed to do Rumi justice here, please know that any such failures are neither Rumi's nor my father's, but mine alone. The second sage who emboldened me to begin translating this poetry was Coleman Barks. If you've ever encountered Rumi in English before this, then it was likely through Barks's translations. Both my father and I agree that no one has better captured or spread the spirit of Rumi's poetry in English than Coleman Barks. What's more, he doesn't speak Farsi. Barks' more soulful and less literal interpretations of Rumi's verse are based on other translations from the original Persian, most notably R.A. Nicholson's. For years I didn't realize this because I have a bad habit of skipping introductions and author's notes. Yes, I appreciate the irony. I had always just assumed that translating a work required knowing its original language. Turns out, not necessarily, especially when it comes to Rumi, who adamantly believed that it was better to be of the same heart than of the same tongue. and Coleman Barks is undeniably of Rumi's same heart. Indeed, Barks-inspired translations serve as a testament to Rumi's assertion that sometimes language can be a hindrance to love. So much.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?